Welcome to Parks for All, the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board 2021 Comprehensive Plan Virtual Park Summit. The Park Summit is a midpoint to our planning process where work group members are sharing draft recommendations with each other, the public, park board staff, and park commissioners in order to make connections to identify gaps. Groups of agency partners, park board staff, and thought leaders identified these topics during the Parks for All planning process as important for the park board to work on over the next 10 years. Thank you for joining the conversation. My name is Talia Mormon, and for the past few months, I have been serving on the Arts, Culture, and History work group. Our work group is made up of people representing these organizations. Here is a definition of what we mean by arts, culture, and history in the context of the next decade of the Park Board. Parks and public spaces play key roles in creative and vibrant city. They offer space to celebrate, gather, bond, protect, express, build, remember, reflect, seek, and create both ourselves and our world. Parks have the potential to be great spaces of cultural connection and expression, integrating arts, culture, and historical layers into our parks support the most creative, curious, and important parts of our community. How can we amplify this potential in an increasingly diverse city? How can parks honor the past, tell the untold stories, while supporting the future? Consider Minneapolis's parks: public art collection, historic sites, arts, culture, and history events and programs, and relationships with stakeholders, including but not limited to artists, creatives, historic preservationists, advocates, and volunteers. MPRB is working to determine a path forward for the next decade that supports arts, culture, and history in our parks. What does it look like to support and encourage public art, foster creative placemaking, and celebrate history, especially focus on a wide range of voices and perspectives? We will determine a baseline of support for arts, culture, and history and establish goals around innovation that include clear standards for how equity, sustainability, and education can be woven throughout these efforts. Here are the Art and Culture and History Work Group's 61 policy recommendations for Parks for All. One, analyze existing memorials and advocate for the interpretation of their entire cultural context, including recent history. 2, share narratives and elevate voices beyond dominant cultural contexts. 3, prioritize historical assets in our system through funding and maintenance. 4, expand historical understanding of parks, park features, and park systems through research and engagement. 5, foster partnerships with community-based organizations to create and execute programs and events. 6, offer culturally rich selection of programs and events. 7, provide a wide variety of activities at events to promote social and cross-cultural interaction. 8, ensure events remain safe and identifying city. 9, seek partnership to lower all event and program costs to attendees. 10, establish funding partnerships to subsidize programs, permits, and rental costs. 11, create a transparent, centralized process for artists, how artists can teach, work, and perform in parks. 12, expand marketing and outreach around arts and programming and events. 13, implement fair pay for artists to eliminate economic and racial disparities for artists. 14, establish a stable funding source for public art and programming in the parks. 15, allocate time, space, and resources to emerging and diverse artists. 16, assess and communicate suitability of park facilities for different performance types and scales. 17, assess and expand teaching artist opportunities for all ages and backgrounds in parks. 18. Grow arts-based youth development and employment opportunities. 19. Prioritize mutually beneficial partnerships that serve a public good. 20. Explore internal and external models for public art administration in the parks. 21. Recognize the park as a unique canvas venue voice for celebrating creative sector. 22. Implementing transparent and streamlined process for partners to engage with MPRB. 23. Remove barriers to partnership participation to ensure equity and a citywide balance for arts opportunities. Connect the stories of park history with the stories of today's park users. 25. Continually learn about our history from multiple perspectives. 26. Create spaces and approaches to allow for the evolution of interpretation over time. 27. Enhance interpretation of parks through digital platforms. 28. Establish criteria to balance historic, cultural, and natural resources in our management decisions. 29. Create searchable and shareable inventory of identified, historically designated, and eligible sites within the park system. 30. Create plans for appropriate level of management of historic elements and facilities. 31. Amplify Indigenous connections to land through employment, language in the parks, programming, interpretation, and community engagement. 32. Implement programming that integrates cultural knowledge. 34. Work in regional partnership to connect Indigenous sites of significance in the parks. 35. Balance geographic distribution of programming options to reduce duplication. 36. Research innovation approaches for payment options in order to reduce costs to the community. 37. Create a fund a public art administrator position and a public art program that includes care and maintenance of existing art and monuments as well as new temporary and permanent artwork. 38. Expand partnership opportunities with existing arts organizations. 39. Foster and support a variety of artistic opportunities, both temporary and permanent, in parks. 40. Amplify local and emerging artists. 41. Develop a program or partnership to manage the MPRV Public Art and Memorial Collection. 42. Develop temporary and permanent public art design standards and distinctions. 43. Encourage environmentally sustainable approaches to public art events and temporary installations. 44. Develop a curated approach to public art across the system. 45. Staff up for public art and creative works in the system, including a curator and conservator. 46. Include 1% for art in new projects that includes flexibility to apply funds towards community engagement. 47. Care for existing public art and the memorial collection through staff, inventory, and conservation. 48. Leverage MPRB archive to inventory the collection. 49. Complete a baseline condition assessment every 5 years of all artworks in the system and implement the recommendations for conservation of the collection. 50. Require new permanent artworks to have maintenance plans and funding for the lifespan of each piece. 51. Create and implement maintenance plans for existing art and memorials. 52. Establish a stable funding source for ongoing maintenance of art and memorials, including grant support. 3. Develop a public art plan to determine the long-term approach to public art creative placemaking and memorials, including a feasibility analysis of partnership and/or developing an independent program, what makes the MPRB collection unique, and what it takes in terms of budgeting and staffing. 54. Interpret all pieces in our system to celebrate the community voices that have shaped our system. 55. Celebrate the diversity of our park system and city through the arts. 56. Amplify MPRB identity values through the arts. 57. Develop an artist in residence program that focuses on the diversity and environment of our system in response to the futures we are planning for. 58, embrace rec centers as artists in residence platforms. 59, develop an artist in residence program to reinterpret our memorial collection. 60, center youth in the public art program through residencies, decision-making, in addition to the current arts programming. 61, establish a communication plan for public art collection. Embrace the collection. So there you have all of the policy recommendations from the Arts, Culture, and History work group. Please check out the other work group recommendations on the Park Summit web page. While you're there, share your thoughts on gaps, connections, and significance using the Park Summit survey, community comment board, and listening session. Thanks for tuning into the Parks for All virtual summit.